And let's go ahead and get started.
Good morning. My name is Chris Andrade. I'm Dean of Admissions at Marymount Manhattan College. And number one, thank you for taking time from your day, morning, night, wherever you are, to come and listen to our presentation. Super quick introduction about Marymount Manhattan College. We're a small liberal arts college in New York City. We're located in Manhattan in the Upper East Side between 71st and 72nd Street. We have about 1,900 students at the moment. 10% of them are international students. And we offer about 31 majors and 45 minors in our programs. We also offer scholarships for international students, and they range from $4,000 all the way to $18,000. Our student to faculty ratio is 11 to 1. So we tend to be a small college. So if you're looking for that small environment, a lot of attention from your professors, this is really a place to consider. And we have at the moment many different programs, as I said, 31, but some of the most popular programs, acting, biology, biomedical sciences, our business programs, especially international business, is really good. Many areas in communications, the performing arts with dance, fine arts, international studies, I'm sorry, and the theater, music theater. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name again is Jane Benson Rivera. I'm from the University of Albany, which is a large public research university. We're part of the SUNY system. We are a Research One university. We're located in the capital of New York. So our campus on the top side, you can see we're about 5 kilometers from downtown Albany and the Capitol buildings and all the state government. We have more than 50 undergraduate majors available. Our total enrollment is 18,000 students, mostly at the undergraduate level. We do offer tremendous programs for masters and PhDs as well. Our international enrollment is about 10% of our total student body. And each year we have students coming to Albany from nearly 100 different countries. We're in the northeastern part of the United States, like all of my colleagues, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But New York in general is a wonderful part of the United States to spend some time studying. We are a residential campus, so most of our students will choose to live in one of our residence halls or apartment buildings that are located on our campus. It's a very active, very vibrant campus as well. So we offer about 300 different clubs and organizations to our students. We're Division I in athletics. So although most of our students are not student athletes at that level, our students do enjoy going to games and participating in that college life experience as well. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan George. I'm the International Program Advisor at SUNY Brockport. Like Jane, we are also part of the SUNY system, State University of New York. So there's about 64 different SUNY campuses across the state. SUNY Brockport is located outside the city of Rochester, which is the third largest city in the state of New York, behind New York City and Buffalo. We have about 8,000 students on campus, both at the undergraduate and graduate level. About 50 different academic programs to choose from for our international students and a lot of our domestic students coming to Brockport to study. Some popular areas to study would be business, dance, computer science, exercise science, nursing, international business. So lots of different options for our students to choose from. We have a lot of opportunities for on-campus employment as well. So for students that are coming to our campus, they can pick up some hours working in an apartment on campus. We also offer scholarships up to 50% tuition for our international students. So thank you so much for attending today. Really looking forward to presenting.
Yeah, hi, and I'm Steve Soberjeski from the Culinary Institute of America. We are considered the world's premier culinary college located in the town of Hyde Park, New York, which is about 90 minutes north of New York City by train. We offer associate, bachelor's, and master's degrees of various lengths. We have a residential campus, as you see in the photo, which is nestled in the gorgeous Hudson Valley next to the Hudson River. And we have guaranteed housing for students in their first year. We are about 15% international at our campus and offering courses throughout our 42 individual kitchens and bake shops. We also have 6 public restaurants on our campus that, as I said, are open to the public. We serve about 300,000 guests per year at these restaurants. We're also fully integrated for our student activities. We have a really great recreation athletic program on our campus, including competitive sports, although we are not Division 1 or 2. We do operate in a small conference throughout the Hudson Valley and Connecticut. And we have, of course, a full service student library, student commons with recreation facilities for students, including a gym and a lounge, and probably the only library in the country where you can also go and work on your knife skills. So you can go up to our library and just chop an unlimited supply of root vegetables or work on your piping skills with an unlimited supply of buttercream frosting. So a pretty unique place to live, work, and learn if you're interested in culinary or hospitality. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Keller. I'm from the Rochester Institute of Technology. Gosh, it's tough to follow free buttercream frosting. I know I was certainly intrigued. And I have a dog right next to me and a squirrel outside the window. So hopefully she'll cooperate. But anyways, Rochester Institute of Technology, we have 85 undergraduate programs. A lot of our focus when they see Institute of Technology is STEM. And we're very strong in those areas, particularly in terms of computer sciences, engineering, and those types of things. One of the things that I think truly sets RIT apart is our cooperative education program, or co-op. And that means you get working experience while you're a student at RIT. We've been doing co-op for over 100 years, and we're consistently ranked near the top of the country. And it's while you're at co-op at RIT, you don't pay tuition and you get paid. And so 77% of our graduating international students last year did co-op while they're at RIT. And so what we like to say to international students is when you leave RIT, you leave with 2 pieces of paper, both a diploma and a fully filled out resume. So that's just us in a nutshell. I'd love to speak with you more. If you ever have a chance, we'd love to have you inquire on our website. You can see it right there. The website's www.rit.edu. And we're really glad to be presenting for you today. Thanks.
So most of our talk here today will focus on the undergraduate application process. That's the main focus of this presentation. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the other types of admissions. So I'm going to talk briefly about transfer admission and graduate admissions as well. Next. So most of the colleges and universities in the United States do offer transfer admissions to qualified students. It's a little bit different than the freshman process, obviously, and the requirements vary greatly from one school to the next. So it's very important that when you are coming as a transfer student, that you narrow down your list of choices and that you reach out individually to each of the schools that you're considering, because we all do have a different process for that transfer admissions. Why would students consider coming in as a transfer student as opposed to a first-year student? A lot of times it comes down to a financial decision. So if you spend a year or two either at a community college or at a school in your home country, a lot of times you're able to save some money. And then also sometimes it's a comfort level. So maybe you're not ready to leave home right after high school. You'd rather study while you're able to live with your family. And so some students will do that and then plan to come to the US either in their second or third year of undergraduate study. Transfer admissions is also a great option for students who may not have done as well as they could have in high school. So we have a good number of students in the US who will choose to go to a community college, which tends to be primarily open admissions, and they'll use that time to improve their skills, improve their study habits, improve their academic performance, and then they're able to be qualified for admissions to their dream school. So transfer admissions is an attractive option for a good number of students. Next slide, please. And so here we have just a couple questions. If you're considering coming in as a transfer student, what should you be asking the colleges? I can speak for all my colleagues that our job in international admissions is to connect with students individually. So we welcome you reaching out to us and asking us these questions. You're never bothering us by getting the information that you need to make a good decision for yourself. A lot of times the TOEFL requirement, the language proficiency requirement, is different at for transfer students than first year students. So you want to ask, is that still required as part of my application? So at my school, for example, if you've gone to a community college and you've done well in English composition, we don't still require the TOEFL or IELTS or Duolingo exam. Again, this will vary from my school to the school down the street. They might have a different requirement, and it's important that you find this information out. What's the GPA requirement for the program I'm looking for? Not just the school, but for the specific major. So again, our school, we say 2.5 GPA, which is pretty easy to attain for most students. That's our requirement to transfer. But we do have many programs where you need to have over a 3.0 to be admitted to those programs. Obviously, it's best to reach out early so that you know the requirement before you make your application. And the next one is a two-pronged question. Will my credits transfer, and how long will it take for me to earn my degree? So most of us are at least able to give you a tentative idea of how many of your credits will transfer in to the program that you're looking for. It depends again on where you've gone to school for the first year or two, but you should be able to get an estimate from us as far as will we bring in a year of study, will we bring in 2 years of credits? We can tell you that when you apply. And then how long to earn my degree? You may have done 3 years of good quality study, but you may find out that those credits aren't part of the degree that you're trying to earn at the bachelor's level. So it is an important distinction to find out how many semesters you should be expected to complete in order to earn that 4-year degree. And again, we're more than happy to walk you through that process. And then finally, do I need an official evaluation? Sometimes the term WES evaluation is interchangeable because they're such a large organization, but do I need an official WES evaluation of my work? And that too depends. Some schools will say absolutely, regardless of where you're coming from, we need that evaluation. Other schools may have flexibility. So we may be able to say, since your first school was taught in English, for example, we can use that transcript, or we're familiar with the school you're coming from and we know how their courses are structured, so we can waive that requirement for an evaluation. So again, it largely depends on the school that you're applying to and the school that you're coming from. Next slide, please. And then I'll just touch briefly on graduate admissions. So that process is very different than undergraduate admissions. It tends to be much more structured. The rules tend to be much more firm. The deadlines are deadlines typically at the graduate level. So many of us at the undergraduate level, we do rolling admissions. We may have a deadline date, but it's not set in stone. The graduate level, all of us will have on our website our deadlines for application. And you want to be mindful of those because usually a lot of the graduate programs, they fill up. The deadline is there because they will have enough qualified applicants by that date. So you want to be sensitive to that and allow yourself time to get everything done that you need to complete for the application. We always say in the US, fit of the program is very important. So it's not just that you're looking for a master's in psychology, for example, but you want to see, how's the education laid out? How big is the program? You really want to make sure that the focus of that program is a fit for what you're learning to, or what you're hoping to accomplish as your future career. So you really want to spend some time researching each of the programs you're applying to. Next slide.
So one of the first steps you need to take once you identified what schools you want to apply to is submitting an application. So all of us in this presentation, in this webinar, we have our own applications, and most of us are going to have our application online. So you can go visit our websites and you can check the application that we offer online. So that's the first step you need to take. Now, we also have an organization called the Common Application. This organization, one of the roles they have is to bring a lot of colleges together and offer you, the applicant, an option to use one application for many of the colleges that you're going to be applying. So instead of going to each one of our websites and then applying to each one of us individually, you can go into Common App and complete one single application and select as many schools as they have members and you are applying to as you want to submit through the Common App. At the moment, we have about they have about 900 colleges and universities as members from all 50 US states and 20 different countries. So you'll find a lot of different colleges, universities listed. And again, the benefit of the Common App is that you have one single application that you submit. Once you select the colleges that you want to submit the application for, make sure that you understand also that each one of those colleges might have a supplemental part of the Common App. And every college is going to be different in that supplemental. To give you an idea, the Marymount Manhattan College has a one-page supplemental. It's a very, very simple page. You select a few different questions that we don't ask through the Common App part of the application, and then you submit that one single page. There's other colleges that might have two different supplementals depending on the program that you're applying. Within those colleges, you might have another supplemental as well. So make sure that you understand and you review for each one of the colleges that you use the Common App. Make sure that you understand how many or what is the supplemental portion of the Common App for them. And there's over 1 million students that use the Common App every year. And they come from everywhere. It is an international application as well. So as you can see, there's more than 200 countries that use students from 200 different countries that use the Common App to apply to colleges in the US. So another great benefit of the Common App is that you can include your recommendations. So if you have 2 recommendations, you can include them in the Common App as well as your essay. And once you submit the application, we'll get the essay, we'll get the recommendations. And depending on your high school, they might have a connection also with the Common App, and they can submit your transcripts and other documents directly through the Common App as well. So it's a very useful, very helpful application that we have available for you guys.
All right, so after you submit your college or university application, we're going to kind of jump into what else is needed in order to receive admission from any U.S. university institution. First and foremost, one of the biggest pieces of all applications would be an academic transcript. The academic transcript is very helpful for a lot of different reasons. And can be a big deciding factor in a student's admission to a university or college. So a couple things to consider when looking at an academic transcript, no matter if you're applying as an undergraduate, first-year student, a transfer student, graduate student, you're going to need an official academic transcript. First and foremost, a lot of colleges and universities may need an evaluation. That is based on each institution and what they require for their admission. So it's best to check with each institution that you are looking to apply to as to what is required for that transcript. For some universities at SUNY Brockport at the undergraduate level, we can do in-house evaluations for all undergraduate students. However, at the graduate level, we do require what's called a WES evaluation. What that will do is, you send your academic transcript off to this organization called WES. They will evaluate your transcript. They will translate it and show you, or the institution, how many credits are going to be applied to the student's degree. So another thing to consider is that some institutions may require you to submit an academic transcript both in your native language and in the English language. So that's really important. And sometimes that can be a bit of a holdup for students when they're looking to finish their application, is that students may have only submitted their Vietnamese academic transcript. However, they didn't submit it in English, right? So that's something to consider, is be sure to submit your academic transcript both in English and in your native language. Official versus unofficial transcripts. That's something that you'll also want to discuss with the institution you're applying to. A lot of the time, 9 times out of 10, they will say we need an official transcript for you to receive official admission to that institution. However, Jane was mentioning earlier in transfer admissions that sometimes unofficial transcripts can be helpful for kind of like a conditional admission. It can help to get a baseline idea for transfer credits, especially if you started a community college and you're looking to finish your degree at a 4-year institution. Sometimes submitting an unofficial transcript can help you get that head start on how many of my credits are going to transfer into my degree at your institution. Sometimes universities might accept an unofficial transcript to give you a preliminary idea as to, if you are going to receive any sort of admission. However, it's always best, be sure that you submit an official certified academic transcript from your college, from your high school, depending on the admission that you're seeking. And transcript submission is another big thing. In today's technology world, sometimes it's just easier to send a scanned version of your academic transcript via email. However, some institutions may see that as an unofficial transcript because it was not sent in paper through the mail and as a certified copy. So be sure you check with the institutions as to what they want specifically for their transcript submission, because that's going to be really important. You may think that, I submitted my transcripts, I don't know why I'm not receiving an acceptance. And it could have been because you just sent a transcript via email, and that's considered unofficial. A lot of institutions now have the ability for you to log into an online portal and submit your academic transcript. And if that's their process, then that can be considered official. But it's just best to check with the institutions you are applying to as to what they want for their transcripts. Next slide. A couple more points about an academic transcript. Is the transcript important? Well, that kind of moves into a lot of different things. Yes, it is very important. I can speak for, I think, everyone on this call. We really do take a lot of time, not only just to look at what's your overall GPA, but what specific courses have you been taking? How have you been doing in those courses? And sometimes that can decide as to if you are admitted to a university or not. There is something that a lot of international admissions teams do review applications on, and that's called a holistic admissions process. So holistic admission means, yes, we will obviously look at your academic transcripts to make sure that you're meeting the academic standard for that institution. However, your essays, your letters of recommendation, your overall application are very important as well. So we look at the student as a whole. We're not just looking at, a GPA, test scores, and that's it. But that transcript is a big deciding factor. Jane also mentioned earlier, program-specific GPA. So if you're applying either as a first-year student for like a direct admittance into a specific program, or if you're applying as a transfer student, you may need a specific GPA or grade point average to ensure that you can not only get accepted to that university, but maybe you're a program that you're very interested in at that university. Sometimes, at SUNY Brockport, we have a very competitive nursing program. Students can get admitted to Brockport based on their GPA, but maybe not direct admittance into our nursing program because their GPA might fall just short of that. and credits within a degree program for transfer graduate admission. That's obviously very important. So at the graduate level, you know, the graduate team is going to want to see that you've taken enough credits in a program that you're applying to ensure that you have the background knowledge to obtain a master's degree. And at the transfer level, they'll want to ensure that, you know, yes, you can be accepted, but it might take you a long amount of time. It might take you a couple more semesters to complete a degree in computer science if you've only been studying art programs your first 2 years at a community college. So the transcript gives us as international admissions a really good idea and very good baseline as to, you know, how you are going to do at our institution. But, you know, I think it's very important for you to connect with an undergrad admissions, international admissions advisor, just to ensure that, you know, you have everything in line and you're meeting all the standards for an academic transcript. Next slide.
Thanks. I was having some trouble unmuting there. Next, let's talk about the letter of recommendation. Just about all universities require either a letter of recommendation or a character letter or something along those lines. So another question, how important is the letter of recommendation? Well, in some institutions, the weight of the letter of recommendation varies. But essentially, it's a way for the university to get information about you that they can't read in your application or in the, you know, personal statements or essays or other supplemental documents that they're asking you to submit. You should read the requirements for the recommendation letter that is required very closely. Some of them ask you to pick out specific points. Some of them ask you for a specific format or a specific length. And you should also select your recommender carefully. Speak to someone who knows you well, can speak to your accomplishments and character, and who can give detailed information about you while being concise. So for example, a guidance counselor, a teacher, maybe if you are asked for a professional letter of recommendation, someone that you've worked with or for a significant amount of time. We want to get these details from you in the letter about you in the letter of recommendation, so that we can determine, you know, what your professionalism is, what are your leadership qualities, where are your passions, why are you interested in this program. As always, and this is something I talk to students about frequently, you should discuss your goals with the person writing your recommendation letter beforehand. So if you are going to one of your teachers to ask them to write you a letter of recommendation, you should say, I need a letter of recommendation, please, for such and such university. The program I'm applying for is, you know, I'm applying for engineering, I'm applying for arts, I'm applying for culinary arts, whatever it might be. So I would like, you know, the recommendation letter to talk about A, B, and C accomplishments and the things that I've worked on with you in your classroom or at your place of business or what have you. So it's really important that it be thorough and speak to specific things about you. A lot of times you'll see letters of recommendation that are very general, like such and such as a good student, you know, pleasure to have in class, and so on and so forth. And those are great details and qualities, or great qualities about you. But we also want to know, what sort of accomplishments have you had over your, you know, say high school career or in your professional life or at other universities that you've attended. It's just another piece of information. It's a way for us to look at you as an applicant through another lens by relying on someone else's interpretation of your goals and achievements. So I would say the letter of recommendation for the schools that are requiring it, they're not just asking for it. It is an important piece of the application, and we do want to see as much detail as we can about you as a student.
Sorry, I was having problems with my mute button. So the personal statement, or some call it the essay, and I could do a webinar for an hour on just this topic. And so, you know, really, I'm just going to touch upon some of the, you know, what I see as the most important parts. You know, really, this is your chance to kind of tie your application together. You know, using the Common Application, they give you a few different prompts that you can work off of. Or if you you know, apply to an individual school, they will have their own essays. And it's a chance to really kind of explain to the reader who it is, you know, that you are, and kind of to explain what everything in your application means, and to kind of have it tell a story. One thing that I really like to reiterate and just say is just really important is to know your audience. In a typical year, people like me will read probably around 1,000 applications. And so we see a lot of essays. And so remember who your audience is and kind of speak to them. Prepare multiple drafts, don't have any errors. Go through it several times. A lot of times if you're not using the Common App, what people will do is they will try to repurpose other essays they've written and to try to make it work. Make sure that it answers and works for all of the different parts of the essay that the prompt is asking. Don't spend a lot of time, don't begin your essay by saying, it was a Tuesday and I was moving up a mountain. And as I was going along the trail, there were trees and the air was getting thinner and I could see some animals to the side, but the path was getting harder and harder. That's some great imagery, but you really have a limited amount of time. So don't spend a lot of time doing those types of things. Be a little self-reflective, look backwards instead of looking forwards, and kind of review your high school career and really your life as a whole, and how it ties into why you want to attend this specific school. Show versus tell, give examples of the types of things that you've done. So those would be, a few different things that I would say. Another thing to consider is use the essay as a chance to indicate what it is that the specific school offers that you can't get anywhere else. But do your homework. Don't say, I want to study at the Culinary Institute of America for their, top-notch computing security program. Just make sure that you have it right. I read an essay last year talking about our medical school, and that doesn't exist. Be careful there. And also use the supplemental essays. Really, if you have, a few schools that are amongst your top choice schools, I would use the supplemental essays. It's more work. But when you're reading, like all the people on this call are, when you're reading applications and you see a student has done the supplemental essay, we can see that they're more interested. One of the challenges for admissions professionals like those on this call is not only are we deciding if we're going to admit or deny a student, what we're trying to find is the students who we can both admit and have an intention of possibly coming to our school. And each year it becomes more common for students to apply to more and more schools, especially as affordability becomes a greater and greater issue. And my best advice is to, in your personal statement, try to make some indications in very subtle ways that you're very interested in this specific school, that the reader for that school will be reading. So like I said, I've done 2 webinars this fall on this topic, and it's about an hour or a little bit less than an hour, but those were just a couple of things in terms of an overview. Next slide. I'm sorry. This is also me. In terms of English proficiency. Okay, so at this point, there's 2 really common tests, both the TOEFL and the IELTS. And it is that is what most students have traditionally used. Now, they have both gone to an online option due to the pandemic. Surprisingly, not many students have taken advantage of this offer. And I think that will get to my next point. But if you can't take the TOEFL or IELTS and it's been canceled in your area, you can take them online now. There's also a new test that's really kind of swept across the United States. It's called the Duolingo test, which many of you may be familiar about. I would also say, even if the school doesn't list accepting the Duolingo test on their website, it is still worth asking your admissions counselor, hey, do you accept the Duolingo? Most of the students find it to be a slightly easier test. Most people with a PhD in linguistics don't love the Duolingo test. It doesn't assess academic writing very well. It doesn't assess listening comprehension as well as the other tests do, or at least that's my opinion. But many schools have gone to it just given the circumstance. I have found that they are not, and some on this call might disagree with me. I found that they're tough tests to prepare for. My best advice as you prepare for these tests is to use your English a lot. Really speak a lot, read as much as you can in English, although hopefully you're not reading a lot about our election coming up. Really do everything that you can do in your control to practice your English. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the English proficiency tests. Next slide.
Great. And to piggyback off of what Paul had said, of course, we will give a little bit more information about the language exams overall. Obviously, the language exams that schools accept to gauge your English proficiency, they are there to test you and to gauge like what your skill level is. Just make sure that you are ready, able to participate in the classes that you're taking. One of the reasons that we accept this test is because we want to make sure that a student is not setting themselves up to fail per se. So they're not going to go into a classroom where they're not going to understand the language. They're not going to understand, the little intricacies and nuances of the way that people speak at times, and therefore miss out on lessons and fall behind in the coursework. We want to make sure that they can maintain themselves while they're in the classroom. Each school will have different requirements. Each one of these exams that I'm going to talk about in a minute has a range of scores. So you might be scoring on the lower end or the higher end of a certain spectrum that they offer. And each school is going to require a different level of proficiency or a different score level on each one of those exams in order to prove your English proficiency. So for each test, you really want to make sure that you understand what the scoring requirements are for the schools that you're applying for, and schedule your test well in advance so that you have time to look through the materials on their website so that you know exactly, a lot of these tests offer practice tests that you can take leading up to the day. Really get to understand like what they're going to be asking you, what you want to prepare for, and make sure that you're ready. I tell my students when they're thinking about taking, one of these language exams, treat these like the SAT. Really try to get as much practical resources as you can in order to take these. As Paul mentioned, the most common tests that you're going to see are the IELTS and TOEFL. I also see schools using the Pearson test fairly often. There are others out there like Cambridge and a bunch of others, but these are the ones that you're going to see used most often. And as Paul said, of course, the Duolingo and language cert exams are on the rise in the United States. We as an institution have just started accepting these tests as well. Mostly it's an access sort of issue. These tests are offered online. They're fully online. They have built-in security measures. They ask you to submit like a government document as proof of identification. Some of them use sort of like motion sensing technology to make sure that you're keeping your eyes on the computer the entire time that you're doing the exam. But they do offer a level of access to students who might not be able to go to a testing center and take one of these other exams in person. In addition to these language exams that I've mentioned here, some schools do accept the SAT and ACT as proof of English proficiency. You really need, like I said earlier, you need to look at the different requirements from school to school that you're applying for. And of course, in all of these exams, security is very important. So make sure that you have your passport or your ID, really look at what the test is asking you for and read the instructions. I have taken some of these tests myself, and the instructions, while they're there, some of them are obscure. They may not make a lot of sense to you as a non-native English speaker if they're not translated. Or the nuance might be lost in what they're writing out. So just make sure that you really refresh yourself and understand what the requirements are so that on test day, you show up with what you need and you're ready to sit and take your exam.
Great, thank you. So you completed your application, you submitted an app, you wrote your essay, you have your transcripts, you have your test scores, you submit all of them. You might be looking at programs in the performing arts and in the fine and performing arts. So there is another extra step that you might have to take depending on the program that you're applying to. At Mary Manhattan College, we have programs in fine arts in theater, and in dance. You might be looking at colleges that have a music program because you want to study music. When you're looking at those programs and you decide to apply to them, make sure that you also understand when the auditions or portfolios are due, audition dates for the dance program, for the theater, for music, all of that. It's very important also for you to know what the steps are, because every audition is different from each other. Every portfolio requirements are different from one college to the other. So keep a list to make sure that you know what colleges you're applying to, which one of those are requiring you to do an audition, which ones of those are requiring you to do a portfolio, and also keep a list of the requirements for each one of those auditions and portfolios. Okay. The reason why colleges do this is because, number one, they want to know the level of performing arts that you have in either one of the programs that you're applying to, and also the level of fine arts that you have. If you're up to the standards that they have, then they can admit you into the program. Another reason why they do this is because they can offer you extra scholarships. Again, Marymount Manhattan College offers students academic scholarships as well as performing-based or portfolio-based scholarships once you go through the process. For auditioning, again, into the dance, theater, and music programs, nowadays, because of the time that we're living in, you might have institutions that have in person, but a lot of them are going to be doing digital auditions. We're having in-person virtual auditions. So that means that you're not going to be on campus with us, but you're going to be on a digital setting, a virtual setting, and you're going to be able to do your audition in person through a computer. Important for you to know if they require monologues, how many monologues they have. If you're going to be playing an instrument or singing a song, make sure that you understand what the requirements are, how many songs, how long you have. You might have only a minute. You might have up to 3 minutes to perform whatever you decide that is going to be your monologue, your solo, your songs, or the compositions that you're providing. Part of these auditions might be an interview as well. So some of these programs might be requiring you to have an interview at the end of the audition process. And many of them also require you to send a resume. They want to know the work that you've done through high school and how many shows you participated, or if you have done shows in your high school, outside your high school. So a resume of your work is very, very important. For the portfolio review, again, same reasons to be admitted into a fine arts program, and also for scholarship reasons. We do have in-person review of portfolios as well as digitals. You can, in our case, we require 15 slides or pictures of your work. So we want to see 15 different types of pieces of work that you've done. And then you either upload them into your application online, or you can also schedule an in-person review of your portfolio. Again, that depends on from college to college, so make sure that you know those details. In some cases, especially in fine arts, the level of your artwork is not going to be as important as the the different I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the mediums that you use for art. So keep that in mind. So meaning if you have some paintings as well as the sculptures as well as printmaking, they want to see that. So make sure that you include as much of your artwork as possible. Next slide, please. Special programs admissions. So there are a lot of different special programs depending on the college. Last week I was doing a little bit of research about special programs, and every college will have some different types of special programs that you can apply for. The most common ones mainly are dual degree programs. So programs that you apply for your bachelor's program, and then you are on that track to get your master's degree program as well. So you can do a bachelor's in business and an MBA together. And it might be 4 years instead of 5 years. Then you also have a few programs that are the bachelor program plus a professional program. So you can do 4 years of an undergrad in pre-medical and then attach that to a medical program, or be attached to a law degree program if you do a pre-law program. One of the very famous ones, or very common one, is the PharmD program, where you do a bachelor's and a pharmacy program together in 5 or 6 years, depending on the program. Now, one thing to keep in mind, even though you're applying to a combined program, it is no guarantee that you get admitted into the master's program or the professional program that your track is in. You have to complete also requirements within your bachelor. So you need to maintain a strong GPA. You need to make sure that you complete the specific credits that you need to complete for you to go into the following track. One of the benefits, another benefit of the dual degree programs is many times when you do these programs, you waive, or the college is waiving the master's degree tests that you're required to take. So the GRE or GMATs, they might be waiving those if you're part of these dual degree programs. With international students, there's a lot of colleges that have pathways or English as a second language program. You apply to a college in the US that has an ESL program, and the initial year, the first year that you have within the college is going to be English intensive. You're already admitted to the college. The only caveat to that admissions is that you need to bring your English proficiency to the level that is required for a college. The pathway programs are similar to that, but at the pathway program, you're already taking university level classes together with your English as a second language classes. So it's a combination between the two of them. Those are special programs also that you have in many colleges in the US. Another one is honor programs. Honors are very popular. Most colleges offers you the honors programs, and some colleges will have a specific or different application process for honors. In our case at Marymount, it is automatic. Once you apply to the college, if you have the qualifications for honors, you will be qualified and invited to be part of honors. Other colleges, that is a special program, and you need to submit a second application or an essay or an extra recommendation to be considered for the honors program. And similar to the dual degree programs, the pre-professional programs some colleges will require extra applications or extra steps that you need to take to qualify for them. And again, to give you an idea, with the Marymount Manhattan College, our pre-medical program or biomedical science program has higher GPAs and SAT requirements to be admitted to that program than any other program in the college. Okay, next.
Okay, so one of the other application pieces for universities in the United States is proof of funding. So all international students are required to show proof of funding in order to attend a university in the United States, because in order to attend university, you must get a visa. And in order to get a visa, you must receive what's called the Form I-20. And in order for us to send you the Form I-20, we must know that you can afford to pay for your education. The Form I-20, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a single sheet, one side, front and back, that describes the school that you'll be attending, the cost of attendance, and your personal information, like your name and address and things like that. And that is the piece of paper that you will take to the U.S. consulate in your home country to sit for your visa interview. This requirement is going to be different for all universities based on their cost of attendance. So generally speaking, the proof of funding requirement is you have to be able to show at least 1 year of tuition and other finances, like your residency and things like that. Most schools have to report to the U.S. government what the estimated cost of tuition is for a year, and then that is the basis for the proof of funding that students have to submit. This can be in the form of a bank statement, Documents from your financial sponsors, such as the annual salary statement from an employer or scholarship letters, financial aid statements from the institution that you'll be attending. It is common for students to have multiple sources of funding. So for example, a student coming from a particular country might be being funded in part by their parent, but also in part by a grandparent, and maybe also has received some sort of like foundational scholarship or student loan or something like that. These are all significant and acceptable proofs of your funding capability and can be used to meet that requirement as long as it meets those standards. And as I said, finally, the last thing is that this, like I said, this number will vary from institution to institution. So make sure you look at the individual requirements for each school that you are submitting the minimum acceptable level in order to receive the admissions decision and your Form I-20.
All right, I'll briefly touch on test optional. So test optional in the world of admissions really refers to standardized tests. So that would be the ACT, the SAT, GRE, or GMAT. Usually, if a university is test optional, they will let you know, or they are marketing that because it can be a nice benefit for students to apply to that institution. Sometimes it can, in today's world with COVID, you know, a lot of institutions are switching to test optional for this incoming cohort of students for spring and for fall 2021. However, one thing to note is that some institutions might just be doing this for the pandemic alone. So if you're working with students who are looking to, you know, apply to a university for spring 2021 or fall 2021, right now, a lot of institutions, including a lot of Ivy League schools, have moved to test optional. However, that may change whenever we get back to a world of whatever normal is, right? So that's something to, you know, if you're a student, make sure you're doing your research to understand if the institution you're interested in applying to is test optional, or if that is going to change in the future, right? So just be sure you're doing your research and look at their the institution's admissions checklist. If they are requiring an SAT or an ACT, you will need to take that in order to receive admission. However, if you're applying to a test optional university or institution and you still decide that you want to take the ACT or the SAT, sometimes utilizing those scores and sending those off to the test optional universities can provide you with, you know, direct admittance into programs or additional student scholarships. So taking a standardized test, even when you're applying to a test optional university, can still benefit you as a student. At the graduate level, test optional, typically those are waived if you're in like a direct admittance, those pathway programs. If you are a student at the same university that you're going to study at the graduate level, sometimes they'll waive those and make it test optional for specific cases. So if you're interested in a very university, look into test optional. Test optional does not usually refer to language tests. It's usually just SAT or ACT at the undergraduate level. Next slide.
And to complete the presentation, we just wanted to go over early decision and early action. Those are two terms that we use here in the US, and those are different deadlines that we have, or options to apply to colleges. An early decision or ED applicant, that application is for students that are 110% sure they want to attend that college. Why? Because that application is binding. So if you apply to one college as an ED student and you get admitted to the college, you need to remove all your other applications that you submitted, and you will be enrolling in that college. So generally it's only one college that you applied, ED. Again, is a binding commitment to enroll. Many colleges have an extra form that you need to complete, and your parents as well as your guidance counselor is going to be signing that form. It's kind of almost like a little commitment letter that you have ahead of time for the college. one of the great benefits of that is that you know super early if you get admitted to the college or not. You will be submitting your applications depending on the college between mid-October and early November, and a decision will be available for you by the beginning of December. So you know by December if you're admitted to the college of your dreams, and you can pay your deposit, and you're all done, and you're ready to start classes the next fall. Again, this is a very important to know, is that is a binding commitment. So make sure that you, again, are 110% sure that you want to attend that college. Early action is similar to early decision, but EA is not binding. So you can apply to as many colleges as you want to early action, depending on the college, again, if they offer that option. And then the benefit of EA is that you will know early as well if you get admitted to the college or not. Applications to EA generally are between mid-November and early December, and you will get a decision by the beginning of January. So those are two options in addition to regular admissions. Some colleges have early decision and early action, and some colleges will have only early action and regular decision. So again, another option that you have. Thank you.
Okay, I believe that brings us to the end, and we have just about run out of time. We do have 1 or 2 minutes left if anybody would like to post a question into the Q&A. So please feel free. And if not, thank you very much for joining us today. As I said earlier, this presentation was recorded and it will be available on our website and our YouTube channel in the future. And if you did manage to write something to us in the chat that we weren't able to get to, we will be reaching out to you afterward to follow up. So I think that brings us right to about time, but I want to say thanks to all our presenters for joining us here today. And please come back and check out the other webinars that we have in the future. There's still 3 more sessions coming up over the course of the fall. We have other institutions presenting from all around the state of New York on various topics, and we'd love to have you there. So please feel free to sign up for other events in the future if you see them on the website. Thanks, presenters, for coming today, and thank you all of our attendees. We hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Safe.
Thank you.